speaking specifically of the vulnerabilities that are being attacked at this point in time, I mean, ransomware and the threat of ransomware attacks was through the roof through 2021. You talked about bad actors, whether it is private entities or, governments at play at this point in time. What are you seeing? What are the key targets at this point in time? I mean, infrastructure facilities, so on and so forth. What are the bad actors going after?
It's kind of interesting. The bad actors have evolved just like everybody else. They were in the, you could picture a young kid sitting in somebody's basement whiling away their time gaming and then figuring out that they were very good at technology and they could hack into stuff or they could penetrate certain organizations to prove a point. And you saw that phase. Suddenly, people started to see the economic opportunity associated with that. And you start seeing the economic opportunity, you start seeing things, how do I go for maximum impact? Do I rely on going after this one individual, this one entity, or do I find a much more platform way, as we say in technology, to go attack that? So you saw this sudden surge in what I call supply chain attacks. What that basically means is if 100,000 companies are using SolarWinds, let me go find a way to hack SolarWinds, because once I can get in there, I can get to the 100,000 customers. Whether that be VMware or Exchange servers or any technology company that has a product that's used by hundreds of thousands of users, if they could find a backdoor into that product, then the door opens for them to hack as many either public or private or government entities in the world. And that became the sort of trend over the last few years, which opens the door for ransomware, because when I can get to 100,000, there's businesses in the dark web which rent themselves out as ransomware as a service. It's a new phrase called RAS, not SaaS anymore, where you could say, hey.
That's SaaS-y as well, I believe. We'll get to that in just a second.
We do acronyms to make sure
what is RAS?
It's ransomware as a service, saying, I have access to 50,000 companies. If you want to come, go after them, ask them for ransomware, I'll take my share as a licensing fee for letting you in there. Literally, that's what we were dealing with. That's why you saw this explosion last year of thousands of customers who were going to ransomware attacks. And given it's a greenfield opportunity, most governments have not figured out how they want to react to it. I mean, do you let a business pay ransomware and go back on their feet, or do you restrict them from paying ransomware? Because that's how many other industries, you're not allowed to pay terrorists or kidnappers in many parts of the world, because they believe that accentuates the problem that actually perpetrates the crime.
But companies are paying.
Yes, this is the point. Like in ransomware, we still haven't figured out what's the right way to go for it, because companies say, wait, if I'm shut down for a week, or I'm shut down for 2 weeks, I'm a colonial pipeline, I can't be shut down. I need to supply oil to the world. So from that perspective, you are seeing that happen more and more. And when that begins to happen, more people see the economic opportunity, and then they go after targets, and they can go after benign companies, or they can go after national infrastructure.
But speaking of acronyms, we were just getting used to RAS and SAS, and now you've added one more. What is SASE?
Well, it's first of all, we do acronyms for employment insurance purposes. That way we understand them, and that way we can come and sell you new stuff. No, but look, what has happened is that we've heard about this cloud transformation, where people take their data, their processing from their own data centers and kind of move it to the big public cloud providers, whether it be Google, Microsoft, Amazon, Alibaba, Oracle, etc. When you do that, it fundamentally requires you to change the network that you operate. This is how your consumers, how your employees get access to your data. Securing that new network architecture is SASE. It's the hottest thing today, because every company is going through a cloud transformation that requires you to secure the new way, whether it's employees working from home, whether it's customers accessing your data from wherever they are, whether it's you lighting up your stores if you're a large retailer. It requires a whole new way of doing security for your new network, which is coupled with a buzzword called zero trust, where you believe you don't trust anything. So that is the new architecture for the future. There's very few companies who have that capability, and Palo Alto is one of those, and hopefully that becomes another spurt of growth for us going forward.
Speaking of new capabilities as well as future growth, you've been big on inorganic growth. You've done 14 acquisitions so far, and once the indigestion that you spoke of is sorted out, you're probably going to be out shopping again. But what are the capabilities, if at all, that you need to plug at this point in time, and what does all of this mean in terms of future revenue?
Well, Shreen, I don't know is the honest answer. And the reason I say I don't know is, I've had the privilege of working in the Valley for many years now, and it's apparent any technology company that is not obsessively focused on the constant innovation and new products required in the industry eventually becomes obsolete. We were able to take Palo Alto 4.5 years ago and turned around on its head. Today we play in 14 different categories in security. We stitch them together, provide a solution to our customer, and they're all best-of-breed capabilities. Granted, we acquired probably half of them over the last 4 years and integrated them, but the only way we find the answer is by constantly analyzing the market, understanding what's the new trend, understanding what's the new capability the customers want. It was a little easier to do that, to be honest, in the last 4 years because we were not a player in many places. Now we are a player in majority of the cybersecurity categories, so it becomes harder because there is always a debate whether we build it or we buy it. And if you buy it, it becomes harder to integrate and put it together. So we have to be more judicious in the way we put the stuff together. Having said that, I don't believe we can build everything ourselves. I don't believe that we have the monopoly on intellectual smarts in the cybersecurity space. There are lots and lots of smart people out there building amazing stuff, and it will require us to be vigilant, watch them to see if there is something that's going to become the next trend, which might require us to acquire them. But having said that, like we said, you know, the risk-on mode allowed valuations to get ahead of themselves. So it just requires a little bit of settling down in the brains of the entrepreneurs and sellers. And you know, I've never met a pessimistic startup founder.
Yeah, well, you know, and that's the nature of the business, isn't it? I mean, you cannot be pessimistic. But you know, let me ask you about India and where India figures in your plans. How aware is corporate India about the risk and treating it as a real risk today? And how are they addressing that? How are they dealing with that? What are the conversations that you're having?
Yeah, I've been very impressed with the technological evolution or the path of evolution that India has taken in the last few years. We've heard that, we've seen that. I think some of the work that's going on in the financial services sector is world-class in the way we've built infrastructure in the country, the way it has fostered a variety of startups around the country. And they're all very aware of the fact that they have to build this in a robust and secure way. So the conversations are not us trying to evangelize security. The conversations are them coming to us and asking very sophisticated questions, saying, how do you provide a comprehensive security fabric that we can go secure whatever we're building? Because remember, at some level, the scale that Indian companies need to build to fulfill the promise is bigger than anywhere else in the world. So from that perspective, I think there's ample awareness. I think there's still a paucity of resources in the market because it is a newer challenge that we've recognized. You know, most of our technology resources in the country are very focused about supporting, maintaining, building large systems. So now we're really sort of the new era where we're building amazing solutions for the Indian market. I think there's also awareness at a regulatory level. There's also awareness at the national level. And if there was a magic wand I could wave and ask for a wish, it would be us getting serious about understanding cloud adoption in the country. Because most of the future technologies will be built in the cloud, which will allow for low latency, high bandwidth, high data processing capability, which, by the way, is what we're going to need to deploy AI in this country. So I think if we can get more and more cloud aware in India, if we can leapfrog the technological revolution in a way where we are actually a cloud-first country, it also requires the regulators to be more progressive from a cloud thinking perspective. But if we're able to do that, I don't think there's any stopping us.
Well, what is the deterrent in cloud adoption?
The deterrent typically is that across the world, there is a degree of apprehension in letting all the data sit on the cloud. Because the cloud companies are primarily foreign businesses which put the data in the cloud, so there's a lot of national data requirements, a lot of GDPR-like requirements in Europe, which insist that you keep all the data in one place, in one country.
But now that's localization.
Which is all important. But remember, some businesses require that to be global. I want to be able to see a threat in Korea and be able to deploy the solution in India. I want to be able to see a threat in India and deploy that solution in Germany. So some data needs to be transferred. As long as it's anonymized, as long as it doesn't belong to individuals, it's not compromising any individual's data, I think we should have that flexibility and understanding. And we should also be comfortable deploying cloud-based solutions in our national infrastructure. So all of that stuff is evolving around the world. All I'm saying is that we could leapfrog that if we actually built an understanding and capability, because we're already building it on the financial services sector. We're already building it in the healthcare space. I think it's a matter of time.
But Nikesh, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for speaking with us here on The Record. Appreciate your time, and we wish you the best of luck here with your plans in India and back home as well.
Thank you very much, Shireen. Thank you for having me.
Well, that's it then on this edition of On The Record. We'll see you again. Till then, from all of us here on the team, goodbye. Thanks for watching.